Hey everybody, this is Jill Rock,
Reagan Lorden.
and we are bringing you Rep Council through a video today because we are just taking an abundance of caution to not have people drive home in some uncertain weather tonight. So we're doing this a little different for today. We're not going to go through every detail like we would in a typical Rep Council meeting, but we are going to go through some of the big concepts on slides, and then on Thursday from 5 to 6, we will hold a optional Zoom meeting in case anybody has any questions. Our first slide is to go over that we have a final reminder that the WEA and NEA Representative Assembly nominations close today. So get your last nominations in by using this QR code. And a reminder that WARA is April 11th through 13th. That is over spring break in Spokane. And then NEARA is in July in Philadelphia.
Okay, we're going to quickly run through Section 9, elections from our internal procedures. Same process as before. I'm going to give you a quick update on what we changed, and then you're going to present to your buildings. So the first section, basically we wanted to give more autonomy to the elections committee since they are in charge of creating the process and the timeline and everything. So everything really should go through them since they are running the election. So we changed this language to reflect that. This one didn't really have any changes, but we're changing the his, her to their. For the election results, in this one, we just wanted to clarify that it is the elections committee that is certifying and tallying up the results. And then if there's any discrepancies in the elections, then anyone on the executive board can be the receiver of that information, not just the president. This one, we're taking out all the things that are going to go up onto the BAA website. There's been a lot of inconsistencies with what is being posted. And so what we will guarantee that we can post is the office that's open, who's running for that position, and then if there's any candidate statements, we can put those up there as well. But taking out like the flyer and all that. This one clarifies where campaigning can happen, and then it also just reiterates that you can't use the BEA or BSD supplies or their office for printing out campaign materials. Write-in campaign rules. It seemed that this language gave more advantages for people that were a write-in candidate, so we wanted to equalize that with anyone else that's running. So we changed the language so that they basically have all the same rules as anyone else that's running for election. This one, we changed the dollar amount that can be used to be spent on campaigning from 100 to 500. That's just to bring us into this day and age with inflation, and will make it easier for people that wish to spend on campaigning. This entire section we deleted, and the reason why is because it just didn't really fit into this section. We will probably put this in a different section for where it's more appropriate, but this was more talking about things that would happen at a general membership meeting. Those are the major changes. Please take some time to kind of read through each of the different things that I wrote on the slides, but I just wanted to give you the quick highlights and then present that to your building or department. Come back in February prepared to vote on this, and just so you guys know, the executive board voted on recommending this to the Rep Council. And then email me if you guys have any questions or if anything is unclear, and I'd be happy to answer that. All right, on to budget. The budget committee met again, and this is the amended budget that we were proposing. So we already did approve the last budget, so that's all good. These are going to be changes to the approved budget that we have since done, and it's going to be on yellow paper when you get it into your mailbox. All right, so I'm kind of doing a side-by-side here so you can see what we already approved is on the left and then what we're proposing to change is on the right. An increase to rep stipends. And so this is going to be an increase to your monthly rep council meetings and an increase to your additional duties per month. And so if you were to attend every single meeting before, it would be $900, and then now it'll be $1,400, and that's every meeting plus all the additional duties. And then this also increases the exec board stipends, so from 60 to 80. With that, committee stipends will increase, so any being on the elections committee, budget committee, social media, anti-racist oversight committee, internal procedures review committee, all of those committees, the hourly increase is going to go from $30 to $40. We're recommending an increase to the president and vice president's responsibility stipend and additional duties. So on the left is what it currently is, $5,000 for president's responsibility stipend, and then a 15-day additional duties paid at the per diem, and then there was nothing written in for the VP. And then on the right is what we are proposing, an increase to both the president an increase to the president's responsibility and additional duties, and then adding something from nothing to the VP's responsibility and additional duties. This is all pending on if the internal procedures changes the language. So the budget committee is recommending to the internal procedures review committee that they change the language to reflect this. So if we approve it as a rep council, that's great, but then internal procedures will be taking that recommendation and changing it, and then we would all vote on that again for the internal procedures to change that language, because it's only in the the internal procedures for for the president, not the vice president at all. So we're recommending that be added in. Rep council and exec board expenses, so all of our dinners and all the other things that we spend, like printing and binders and other materials, we're recommending an increase. Specifically an increase to the meal planning. So right now we're spending about $500 per meeting, which is about $5 a person, and it's been really difficult to pay for a meal that's somewhat half decent for $5 a person. So we're increasing that to $775 per meeting, and we think that'll give us more flexibility and maybe more options on what we're eating for dinner. Exec board's been a little easier to stay within their budget, but we're increasing that just slightly just to kind of match up with food prices in the world we're living in now. We're adding additional monies to community outreach, sunshine, and hosted events with the ultimate goal of more community engagement, building solidarity, and especially coming together as we get ready for another bargaining year. And then your job is to present this to your building, come back in February ready to vote on this. Again, let me know about any questions that come up or anything that you need clarifying on. And then if this is voted for approval, then all the changes from this will be retroed for the entire year. So even stuff at the beginning of the year will be paid out at those higher stipends. And then again, the exec board voted to recommend this to the rep council.
All right, VP release. So 4 years ago, we, as a union, made a decision that we would have 2 people on full-time release. So our union president and vice president. Originally, this was determined it would be 1 year at a time, and each year we would vote. And then 2 years ago, we decided we would vote on this as a term limit. So a VP coming in would have a 2-year term, and then at Rep Council, we would vote on this again. So now's that time. We are going to vote on whether or not we would like to continue this structure. And the BEA Executive Board had a discussion around this and ultimately unanimously decided that we would like to recommend the VP position to be on full release again, but also to extend the full-time position to be indefinite. So this way we don't continue to vote on this every year, every 2 years. We can always come back and vote with a different proposal in any future year, but the proposal that we will be voting on next month will be to have a vice president release position full-time indefinitely. So a couple things we have on the screen here, just some supports that come up with having 2 people on a full-time release. And I'll just say personally, as president and as a person who's been in the VP role, this job really does take 2 people to do it very well. I think we've been very fortunate with our skill sets and the amount of communication and coordination that Reagan and I have been putting towards this role. We've been able to have an effective use of our time and our skills, and then we would like to continue to propose this structure for our union. So these are just a couple of things here. And then on our next slide, we've got some just big questions that came up at Executive Board, which would be helpful to kind of share here as well. So one question is, in the past we had 1 president and 1 office manager. The question is ultimately an office manager less expensive? And the answer is basically no. So in some respect, there is a salary difference, but ultimately if we're looking at service and as well as salary, they're pretty comparable. So the notes that we have here, our last office manager was about $83,000 in 2019-2020. Currently, our VP is around $100,000, so it's pretty similar in cost. But some of the added benefits of service, having a teacher in this position really, really helps. Like, we have the ability to be on BSD server, have quicker access to teacher information, and then also we have the ability to do more with the role, more than just the essential roles of an office manager, but we're able to divvy up those tasks between the 4 BEA officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and then also have 2 people on full-time release to support more of our members. Another question that came up is, how does this impact bargaining? So in the past we had a president, vice president, and we had a portion of release for a bargaining lead. So with the structure that we have on now, we wouldn't need to hire a bargaining lead with having 2 people on release, but we also have the flexibility to do what we'd like with this position, having a bargaining lead or not, or just having more capacity because we've got 2 people on release. So we see this as an asset for bargaining, which would be very positive for our members. And then the final question here is, will this raise dues? And the answer is no. So we can sustain the vice president release position with our current funding and without having to raise any dues. So for reps, please present this information at your next meeting. Be prepared to vote on this as a representative. And just a reminder that the BEA Executive Board recommends this full-time position indefinitely. All right, then the next couple slides here, we're going to do a bit of an update from BSD around enrollment, budget, all of the above. So BSD has their overall district-wide budget is about $390 million. What we know for this year is they need to reduce expenditures by about $10 million. And then the following year, $15 million, and then the following year after that, another $15 million. So overall, looking to reduce expenditures by $40 million over 3 years. We have been really trying to push our district to release more information on what this looks like, specifically for staffing and what the impacts on jobs could be. The information that we have at this time is that there could be a potential reduction of 40 to 70 FTE all over the district. So that's not just BEA. It's possible that that reduction would look like it's coming from central office or other bargaining units, not just BEA, but a staffing projection of 40 to 70 as a reduction really comes from reduced enrollment. So that those things come in hand. They also mentioned that attrition, the typical attrition rate each year is about 10%. So there is a lot of hopefulness on the district side that between the people retiring and resigning, that will help with the reductions. Although last year they were not talking about RIFs, which is a reduction in force, this year there is some talk about potential RIFs. So right now what they're saying is potentially looking at cuts versus, or trims versus cuts, excuse me. So there's not talk of eliminating whole programs, but rather looking at ways that they could reduce programs if needed, or as the funding would allocate for that different department. So we don't have more information yet, but essentially the talk is not going away with full programs, just reducing in small spaces. As we get more information, we will share this out. And then the note on non-continuing. Currently, the district is only converting special education and ESA roles for contract conversion, going to provisional status or continuing contract status. So it's likely that admin will make recommendations to the hiring pool, but as of right now, admin will not be promising conversions, outside of special education and ESA. The BSD will not have enrollment projections until after midwinter break. So essentially, once they have these enrollment projections, secondary students sign up for classes, then they will know how many teachers they will need for each class. While this is more geared towards secondary, this time when they will have the enrollment projections will give them a better insight as to how many staff will be needed in each building. So right now, the goal date they've told us is about midwinter break. Then they'll know how much FTE that they can allocate to each building. And they're going to start by looking at what required classes, what required positions will be needed first. And again, this is not all instructional, but the have to have positions like nutrition services or transportation or core subjects is where they will make placements first, and then they will go from there. One thing that they shared is the process will feel a little bit different than last year. Last year there were high concentrations, or a concentrated number, of people impacted at particular buildings. This year it might be felt in varied places all over the district. However, if they're noticing that there will be a handful of people impacted at one building versus another, we might have more specific meetings just for that building to have better communication and coordination. But it will look a little bit different than last year because there's not a consolidation. So transfers and reassignments could potentially be happening in elementary, middle, and high school, as well as departmental reassignments throughout the different departments. And next month, we're going to spend more time really going through what that means. And then here's how the staff placement will go. This is the same process every year, but just kind of giving a little bit of insight. And I'll share about where you're going to see this in the next 2 days. So the process goes like this. First, all involuntary transfer staff will be placed in assignments before employees who are returning from leave, or anybody seeking an open voluntary transfer, or non-continuing employees from the hiring pool. or new hires. So first, they always place any involuntary transferred staff. Then staff who are coming back from a guaranteed leave are placed. And then staff who requested open transfer are placed. That can happen actually sooner if it helps open up a spot for somebody who's being involuntarily transferred. And then finally, anybody in the hiring pool is placed. So this process is a short process, but it happens over many months. And we'll be talking about this again just kind of over time, but we wanted to give a little bit of insight of how this will look. In the next few slides here, you're going to see this looks like a draft memo, but this is going to come out in Thrive on Thursday. Today is Tuesday. So it looks a little bit small. I'm going to go through it quickly, but essentially just giving you a heads up that there's a timeline that will be shared, and that this is really just regarding the staffing reductions and how this will go. It's quoting the contract language, which is nothing is new here, but just giving it all in one space. So going through the process. This part really goes through seniority, this number 2. It's referencing Article 15 on page 75. Again, we'll talk more about specifics around this at the next Rep Council as well, but if you have questions, please just let us know. And then there's that staff placement process right there as well. And then the next couple of slides here are going to look like the timeline. So really going through December, January, February. Where we are right now is the district is identifying any place where they can see already where they're going to need to make reductions, and the contract conversion process is starting now. This is going into the next couple of months. This does say draft, but again, you will get the finalized copy in the Thrive newsletter on Thursday. And then that's the end there of the timeline. So for the Know Your Contract, I think it's really important to be looking from pages 36 to 45. This is Articles 8, 9, 10, and 11. Really going through transfer, involuntary transfer, and assignment and reassignment. We will go through any specific questions that you have on Thursday or over the next bit of time. Next several months, we'll be talking about this quite a bit. And again, this is just preliminary information that is connected to the contract. When we have more specifics, we will keep you in the loop. And then the Know Your Benefits, we've been sharing out a flyer every month from the NEA member benefits. This month, it's about complimentary life insurance. So you'll see this on a bright blue piece of paper that will go on your VA bulletin board. And while we intended on spending a good amount of time today talking about organizing tactics that we can do together, the only one I'm really going to show, or just I've got 2 slides here, we will talk more about organizing next month, but just because of timing, Senate Bill 6040 is raising the cap for special ed funding. Now is a great time to let your members know that if you feel strongly about wanting more funding for special ed, let your legislators know. There's a QR code here so that you could sign in and sign pro on this bill, because we definitely want our state to give as much funding as possible for special education. And then one more slide here connected to organizing. We have been hosting pre-bargaining committees, and we've put these dates and Zoom links in the last newsletter, and we'll continue to share this out. We just wanted to share a little bit about what this is. So typically in a bargaining year, we wait till the year of bargaining and we host listening sessions to where we go to every group and we just hear like what are the main concerns, what's going well, what's a challenge. And next year we will still do that. But this year, as it's the year before bargaining, we are trying to get a jump start on some idea creation and brainstorm around big topics. And we really want our members to be driving this work. So what the intention of this is to have members come together to put their ideas on paper and start developing what we think this could look like. So not a listening session where we're listening to your ideas and coming up with something, but having members come directly to these brainstorm committees to say, what do we think about this idea? And then we develop it further and further. Because the first audience for all of these committees is our own members. if we want to see changes in our contract that would be new for many of our members, there's always going to be a trade-off. So we would like our members to get a good sense of what the needs are of each other before we go to the district. So we've got a long on-ramp to bargaining, but it's important that we use this time together with each other to really be organizing around the concepts that we really care about and want to see in our contract.
Listening sessions will come though. They're not gone forever. We'll start those more traditional listening sessions next year.
All right. And now we're just really at the end here, preview, review. I think we're coming up on the end of January. So the next school board meeting is the 25th. That's a good one to tune into. And then February, for next month, we've got midwinter break and PDs as well, school board meeting on the 8th. We do want to make sure that you are finding time to be meeting with your building or your department as well as your administrators, because really having those conversations on the front end helps be proactive with things that are coming up, but then also helps you to be prepared to vote as a rep when you come back for rep council.
Go to the order. So if you still have any questions from this, feel free to email us, or you can put it into the go to the order. We do check this pretty regularly, and then we'll get back to you with anything that you put into this form.
All right, and then just the last to-do slide here, just as a reminder. So thank you for listening to this video. Please take the information around the internal procedures, the BEA budget, and the VP release. Share this with your groups, and then be able to vote on this when you come back. And check in that email that you received from us around the sign-in for the Google form. We want to make sure that you get paid. So today will look a little bit different since we're not holding a rep council meeting. We will still have an opportunity for an hour of pay just by clicking to show that you watched the video, that you've got the materials, and then there's still the pay for additional duties. So we are being flexible today, and we really appreciate your understanding with that. Thanks so much.
Drive safe, everyone.